right here on France 24. Welcome back, or welcome if you're just joining us. This is the France 24 debate. We're looking at the case of the implications of the case of a Tunisian woman allegedly raped who pressed charges. 2 policemen are charged with rape. And now the public prosecutor asking that she be charged along with her fiancé with public indecency. With us to talk about it, Jalila Hegli-Penier, president of Think Ahead for Tunisia. Also with us, political activist Taoufik Matlouti. Thank you for being with us. Eleanor Beardsley of National Public Radio, just back from Tunis. Bernice Dubois of the European Women's Lobby, and from Cairo, Egyptian activist Shaima El-Amy, who just before the break made the point that harassment of women has nothing to do with the revolution. So are we perhaps making a sort of a mistake when we associate what's going on with the overthrow of longtime dictators?
You're asking me?
Yes.
Of course. Of course, we're making a big mistake if we're going to link this with the overthrow of Mubarak, for example, the harassment that happens in the streets toward women. Of course, we're making a mistake if we link this with the overthrow of a leader. It has nothing to do with that. From personal experience, I was harassed at one point by a police officer. I made a case against him, and this was all during Mubarak's regime. Of course, I was accused at the end. I was treated as an accused. Harassment goes on and on and on from day one since the time of Mubarak till now. It has nothing to do with the overthrow of Mubarak or a new government, in our case, the Muslim Brotherhood or the Freedom and Justice Party. It has nothing to do with that. It is something to do with society. It has nothing to do with political leaders.
Jalila Hegli-Penier.
I would like to add on Shaima's point of view is, yes, it has been. I didn't say that rape was not the case, was not under the Ben Ali era. It happened, and it happens in all societies. But the problem is the institutions of the states after the revolution. We're expecting them to have a good governance model that they will follow, and to be independent from their political parties. And their political parties, normally, if they are, I will take the case of Islamists, they have certain agendas against women. So this woman, we should accuse her instead of listening to her as a victim. We will call her to confront the people who raped her not as a victim, but not as an accused person. So that's the problem. This is why many Tunisians went out on the streets. This is why yesterday here in La Fontaine des Innocents, there were many in Paris. There were many people, and not just women, because the problem is institutions of the state post-revolution. We didn't dream of this actually.
I think I would like to precise some points and point some remarks you did. First of all, the regime did not change yet. I think Ben Ali is out, but the police, the justice, the administration, still the police, the justice of Ben Ali. And change did not operate yet. I think this government is also facing this very, very difficult problem. And I would like to point another problem. When we talk about rape, I think it's a very, very bad example to show the intentions of the Islamists about the women in Tunisia or in other Arab countries. Because if I go to the law in Islam, the punishment for the rape is death sentence. Exactly. Then we cannot link the rape to the Islamist ideology. I think women in Tunisia and in all Arab countries should fight for their rights, should be very aware, and should be really awake to not lose what they got, especially in Tunisia. But the link between this case and the rights of women, it's a very bad mistake.
I totally agree with you. In customs law, in humanitarian law, in Islam, the Islam that I've been taught, normally this should not happen. Even the lady was naked, as you said. Okay,
I totally agree. This is a human being. It's a problem of society and culture.
Yeah, it's a problem either against a man or a woman. But the problem here is a woman, and it's a series of attacks against women. I as a woman, Now I'm afraid when I'm in Tunisia, when I go by night, there are things and facts that happened to me that didn't happen even in the Ben Ali era. I'm witnessing those changes. Okay, this didn't happen before, and I found that this is a way used by the government in place.
It's the will of the government. It's with the will of the government.
There's a tacit agreement. The fact of changing the roles of the women from a victim to an accused, that's a fact. That's a telling case in point.
I think that the prosecutor who is in charge of this case,
but
even if it's a study case,
Yeah.
the prosecutor in charge of this case is a prosecutor from Ben Ali area.
Yeah.
Then I don't think that he's working for the government of Al-Nahda or Takatul
But
or
Mr.
CPR.
Al-Abhiri, he belongs to Al-Nahda, yes? And
Mr. Al-Abhiri is the minister.
Yeah, he's the
Yes,
minister.
but
And you see his statement of
all
day
human
before,
rights,
he said
all
that it's
human
not...
rights
Yeah.
associations are saying you have to separate between the political power and the justice.
Yes, and that is
Mr.
what I'm
Al-Abhiri
saying.
is observing this independence.
No, he has made a statement yesterday to say that this lady will not be called as an accused, and this is what happened today.
This is
so
because he's
that's the double
an
discourse between
experienced
what is
minister.
happening, between facts and what those ministers are saying.
I think I
They're
agree
just
with you
treating
in
us
one
as
point. I agree with you in one point for this government, not only Nahda, all the government.
Yeah.
If this government shows something during these 9 months, it shows its incompetence and its
Thank you.
incapacity
Thank you for saying
to
that.
manage the country.
Bernice Dubois.
Yeah, thank you. I wanted to say one thing. You were specifying quite rightly that this is a crime according to the Muslim religion.
Yeah.
But there is a huge distinction between any religion and the extremists that use that religion.
We agree.
And I was sure we would on that. And the problem with Ennahda is that they are extremists. It is an extremist party.
Hold on,
And
let's-
what I never forgot or forgave were most of the French media, and I'm not speaking about France 24 specifically because I don't believe you did it, at least I did not hear it. But many of the French media kept on saying for months and months, over a year, that the Ennahda party were moderate Islamists, which is a contradiction in terms. They can be moderate Muslims.
Okay.
Not to defend France,
All right,
but
let
very
me-
very shortly, please, I would like just to remind that America, United States, called Mr. Ghannouchi and gave him the award of the best thinker of the year.
I'm not saying
it's
that
not only
America
France.
is any
Yes.
better than
Eleanor Beardsley.
anybody else. I live in France.
Eleanor Beardsley, again, you're just back from
But
Tunis.
nobody else
What
is
did you see
better.
there?
This debate is exactly what's going on in Tunis. Some people say, oh, and now that they're extremists, they're working hand in hand with the Salafists that just want to make this society more extreme. I go all the time to Ennahda. I talk to people. They always, okay, this maybe doesn't mean anything, but they always see me right away. They always give me interviews. They talk about any subject. They have very reasonable things to say. And I come away feeling like, well, they're not so bad. And people, of course, say, well, they're just because they're playing the media. But then, I finally asked an analyst, I said, are they for real? Are they moderate, or are they going to try to, radicalize this society? And the guy says, there's not just one Ennahda. There's, like in any group, there's several kinds of people. Some people do mean well, and they are democratic. And people say the test is, actually, on the 23rd of October, their legitimacy ends. They were elected for a year.
It's not written anywhere.
It might not be written. Okay, their job is to come up with a constitution and then to hold new elections.
Yeah.
We'll see if they do that. A lot of Tunisians are saying, I won't vote for them again. I voted for them before, and I won't vote for them again. If they accept a free and fair vote and write the constitution, then they're moderate. We'll see what happens.
But,
Shaima El Aimi, you were taking the long view, saying there was discrimination against women before the revolution. There's discrimination against women after the revolution. What is certain, though, is that women's rights over the decades, if you do take that long view, are perhaps not the same in Cairo as they once were. We're going to show you a video that's we found on YouTube. It's one of Egypt's then president, Gamal Abdel Nasser, back in 1953.
I met the leader of the Muslim Brotherhood. He told me his demands. And what did he ask me? He first told me that I had to make the veil compulsory in Egypt. He told me I had to order every Egyptian woman on the street to wear the veil. Every woman on the street. I answered, "Sir, you have a daughter in medical school. She doesn't wear the veil." If you can't make your own daughter wear the veil, how do you think I can make 10 million Egyptian women wear it?
All right, there's more than 10 million women in Egypt today. Shaima Al-Aimi, when you think back to what he was saying way back in 1953, what do you think about the direction in which women's rights are going in Egypt?
Okay, I think after the 70s, late 70s, early 80s, women's rights are going downhill in Egypt. This is mainly because of a Wahhabi sort of influence on Egyptian society. This influence came from most of the people who went to the Gulf countries, who come back with a certain new mindset, with a new culture they've experienced, and they want to implement it here in Egypt. That's one of the main problems we have with the new Constitutional Assembly. The new constitution, I mean, we would be lucky if it brings out an Iran in Egypt. What most women are afraid of, and what most people are afraid of, is that it will make Taliban Afghanistan look like a walk in the park. Many people have been calling it, yes, many people have been calling it a Wahhabi constitution. It's that scary for many women. And not just women, but since we're speaking about women right now, this is what people are thinking and saying. So it's not the Muslim Brotherhood, however, that... I beg your pardon?
Go ahead, Shaima Al-Aimi.
Yes, it's not the Muslim Brotherhood that posed the real problem here, because they're quite moderate in comparison with other Islamist groups. The Salafis, and not all Salafis as well, but many Salafis who, with the Wahhabi mindset. It's as if it's a constitution written in Saudi Arabia in the 19th century, and they're bringing it to us, telling us what rights we should and should not have.
7th century.
Jalila Hegdi-Pinnier.
But there's something else I would like to add, is that there are laws in Egypt that incriminate or criminalize harassment against women, even verbal harassment. But none of these laws are implemented. None of them.
All right, Jalila.
The law actually states she has, the man who, if incriminated, receives a sentence from 6 months to 3 years. That's not implemented.
All right,
And if a woman...
I just want to get Jalila Hegdi-Pinnier to react to this.
Yeah, actually, the problem, in Tunisia is the same thing as in Egypt. But the only difference is that we have a culture and we have our acquis, which we have since last century. We are comparing to the rest of the Arab world. Women's liberation and women's freedom is how do you say that? Is really
It was a fact.
But lately, the problem is that we're moving backward, and we're discussing instead of moving to discuss to ameliorate our socio-economic, political system. Now we're defending our acquis, which Tahir Haddad, Bourguiba, those feminists have fought for since the 1920s. So that's what makes Tunisians outraged like this, because we thought those were not, those question of gender question or equality questions were not on the table in the revolution era and in the revolt era. But now they are coming up and as if we're moving backwards.
All right, just 2 points before we go, because we're running short on time. First of all, how other nations treat women does become the West's business when the West does business with those nations. And there's a huge storm going on in Sweden today because the furniture maker IKEA decided to airbrush every single woman out of its catalog for Saudi Arabia. The company has profusely apologized, but it's quite a shock to the system. And then I suppose there's another point that should be made, that the stigmatization of rape is not just an issue in the Arab world. Cue the August remarks of the Republican candidate for Senate in Missouri.
It seems to me, first of all, from what I understand from doctors, that's really rare. If it's a legitimate rape, the female body has ways to try to shut that whole thing down.
What?
And Eleanor Beardsley,
What did he say?
he did not drop out of the race.
Yeah,
He's still
it's crazy.
running for Senate.
Yeah, thank you for showing me that because I had actually not seen it. I had only
Oh
read
my
it.
God, that's
I have
shocking.
read
Yeah,
it.
but he's.
I have read it. not
People
seen
are
it.
so stunned by that. He's just gotten a whole bunch of flack. I mean, it's just a huge outrage over that.
He's fallen back in the
Oh,
polls.
it raised
Yeah, no,
a
he's
storm.
and yeah, it's a huge public firestorm over that. Huge. Women are just like nobody could believe it. It was from 2 centuries ago.
But what does it say about...
Yeah, quite frankly, nobody said it. Men. We talk about societies. Men. There's a problem with men. I guess that's too big of a debate tonight, Francois. But that's I mean, what is wrong with men across the world? That's what I want to say. That's not our subject. I don't know what to say. How do people have these ideas in the U.S. today? I don't know.
All right, you've
That's
primed the
the
pump for
impression
another
today.
discussion, which we'll
That's
pick
the
up
problem
on.
in Tunisia today. See why
Right.
we're outraged like that.
Jalila Hegli-Pena, I want to thank you. I want to thank Bernice Dubois, Taufik Matloutli. I want to thank Eleanor Beardsley, and I want to thank Shaima El Aimi for joining us from Cairo. Thank you for being with us here in the France 24 debate.